A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to HJN Super Foam Flying. And now today, we are going to get a little freaky, pretty much. Very freaky. Out of this world, and possibly even out of this galaxy. Because today, let's introduce a little something that has been around for a long time, but yet, I never got the chance to showcase it on YouTube. This is the Alien Menace series. A very short-lived lineup that included this blaster called the Ravenger. So, just see it right there, printed on the grip. That's how you know we mean business. And I really gotta say though, for a blaster like this, it sure has some amazing looks for a blaster that is supposed to be based on, well, what could be aliens, if you will. I guess is a good way to give us an idea of what alien guns or weapons in general might look like. This blaster does seem to have a pretty good representation of what that might just be. If, of course, the time were to allow for us to go hunting for aliens. Wow. That didn't go very well. So, that's pretty much just that. But the Alien Menace Ravenger sure is a bit more than just its looks and its overall functionality. The impressive amounts of molding, especially when you get towards this oscillating cylinder pretty much, which does have itself a bit of a plus sort of appearance, but it does in fact articulate around upon the trigger return, which is pretty similar to that of a few other blasters that we've had over the years. As opposed to how most cylinders or drums will probably turn upon trigger pull, which is what some other blasters have also been capable of doing over the years. But other than that though, I really do feel like the Ravenger is still a pretty good blaster, but if there's probably a few things that I might have to worry about, it would have to be the fact that, first of all, if you look in here, this is actually a way for them to show you how the blaster looks inside, which is very similar to how the Doomlands blasters had their own sort of way of being able to look into the internals of their blasters to show you how they work and how they operate pretty much. But this, however, doesn't necessarily show a whole lot other than a couple pieces that would in fact be necessary. So, yeah, unfortunately that's not necessarily going to be a big thing to be on the lookout for. Because all three of the blasters that have been released in the Alien Menace series so far, they do have this little sort of window on them, or at least some sort of transparent plastic on it that does in fact contrast to the opaque purple right here. This is pretty much just a transparent purple, completely transparent, but you can't really see through it all too well. Possibly because of its shaping and all that, which I feel like is fine, but it probably only goes so far. Being that the aesthetic might just be a bit more of a presentable factor than its overall functionality, being transparent plastic and all that. And then of course, we gotta worry about the grip itself. It is a little too short for my hand and all that. The kind of stature that I have, being that I'm 6 foot tall and I weigh about 250 pounds. It pretty much just goes to show that this kind of grip right here probably is not necessarily the best thing to have for a hand of this size. Otherwise, I feel like that's probably just a couple things that I would have to mention in terms of what things could indeed be fixed. Let's also get to the fact that, well, other positives, like the color scheme, first of all. You gotta really appreciate the sort of trademark that all toy guns pretty much have nowadays. A sort of orange, light, bright orange. Similar to hunting clothes, pretty much, that most hunters would recommend wearing. Just to show that this is in fact a toy, and not at all in any ways resemblance to real guns, which could mean pretty bad danger up ahead. And I really do feel like that the orange really blends together with this purple, both the opaque and the transparent parts, the white, the dark gray, pretty much. And I really do feel like that there's also a lot more I could talk about this. But there's not too much else to talk about here. There's not really any tactical rails or stock adapters, pretty much, which is not necessarily that good. And so, I feel like that the Ravenger, while it is a great blaster, in its own right, at least, it probably does in fact have some spruce ups that it would need to be taken care of before it could become an optimal blaster by any means. And I do feel like that could be one of a few reasons why the Alien Menace series ended up going defunct within only just a year. But soon enough, I will be able to pick up the other 2 blasters that have been released so far within that series. And those, in fact, will be coming soon here on HJN Super Foam Flying. And if you want to see more, go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.